Okay, it's 10:02. I think we should get rolling so that we can make sure that we are done ahead of schedule, because everyone loves being done ahead of schedule so we can get time back in our lives. Oh, so this is a showing of the group of organizations who've been talking together about the needs and behind the scenes to be able to help make sure everything is being talked about and moving forward. I am going to show us our agenda for today and then hand it over to Carola. Our agenda for today: we'll talk with Carola, Rich. I will give a brief update, and then we'll speak with the other nonprofits in here, how they are doing their work. I am going to stop sharing my screen so that we can hear from Carola.
Thanks, Faith, and welcome everyone to this info session. We thought it would be a good idea to bring us together. This is our third info session. As you saw from the chart that Faith shared with everyone, we have a group of organizations that have been partnering together to share information with each other and to collaborate and work together as we serve new arrivals that come to our area. Our meeting today is going to primarily focus on the people that are staying in the shelters in Westchester County, but know that most of the organizations that will be presenting and talking to you are working with new arrivals that are coming in a whole variety of ways. And so coming to our area in Westchester County. And as we all know, this has been happening for decades, so this is not new work for any of us. I'll give you a little bit of information so that as a way of updating you on some of the numbers. I'll start with that first. We have about 113,000 people that have been bused to New York City, and about 60,000 of them are in shelters in New York City. Out of that number, about 2,200 people have been bused to upstate New York and are staying across 14 different hotels. And to my understanding and working with colleagues out on Long Island, we have not seen anyone actually bust from New York City to Long Island. We have about 400 people that have been bused to Westchester County, and they're staying across 3 hotels. 2 of those hotels are run by .go, and one of those hotels is run by WestHab, and Rich Nightingale will be sharing with us in a few moments a little bit about that. To let you know that we have seen over the last 6 weeks or so, we have seen a lot less movement in Westchester County as it relates to new people coming to the shelters. I'll mention also that at Neighbors Link, we are serving 6 different shelters, so not just Westchester County, but also Poughkeepsie, one of the shelters in Dutchess County and Poughkeepsie, and also one in Newburgh. And so you're going to often hear me say clearly that I'm talking about Westchester, so that you know that I'm talking about the 3 shelters in Westchester. .go that runs 2 of the shelters, one in Ardsley and one in White Plains, is a medical services company. You may have read in the papers that they received a $432 million contract from the city to run the shelters. And they are the ones running the 2 hotels in Westchester County, along with WestHab, as I mentioned. I'll also mention a couple of things regarding our work with .go. We've been in touch with them regularly, but I'm also excited to say that United Way and Faith are taking a leadership role in communicating with .go for our county, and Faith will be talking about that a little bit more in a moment. You might know that Rockland and Orange County, along with several other counties, have issued executive orders to ban immigrants from the hotels, and they have then consequently been sued by New York City. So all of that is pending. I'm glad to say that Westchester County Executive George Latimer has been a leader in terms of being welcoming and offering practical solutions as it relates to the shelters and welcoming new arrivals. In the news, you might have also seen most recently that Yonkers Mayor Spano is seeking to fines against the hotel for housing asylum seekers for more than a month. And so we've also had some of our elected officials visit some of the different shelters in Westchester County, and they've been in communication with our group as well. There's a couple things I wanted to mention regarding what's different at the border today as people are coming into our country. There are two main things I wanted to mention. One big shift that we've seen that's different from decades ago is that people, when they are coming to our border, are now presenting themselves at Customs and Border Patrol. They are presenting at one of our ports of entry and indicating that they plan to seek asylum in this country. And that is a shift from what we saw some decades ago. We saw people coming in across the border without presenting themselves at border, without any kind of inspection. And so they've been coming into the country as undocumented. Coming into the country and asking for asylum protection is a legal form of entering the country. Another shift that we've also seen is that we have people coming from different countries, a much more significant diversity of people. And we are seeing more people coming from Venezuela, from Cuba, from Nicaragua, whereas in the past we saw more people coming from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. We also are seeing that more people coming to our area do not necessarily have close family ties with others, and that indicates their need for more support as they come to our areas. One last piece of information I'll give you is a little bit just the nuance, the difference between applying for asylum versus what you might have heard recently, that Venezuelans, for example, can seek temporary protected status. So when individuals are seeking asylum, they have to make a case for their own individual need for protection. So they have to show their individual, as an individual, they need to show their fear of being in their own country. Temporary protected status, on the other hand, allows a whole group of people from a country to apply for temporary protected status, and they no longer have to prove as an individual that they are fearful. And so you've heard that temporary protected status has been given to those from Venezuela. However, there are still a few barriers. It's still a challenge. You have to be able to prove that you're from Venezuela, or from whatever country has been granted temporary protected status. There are other countries that qualify, but you have to be able to prove you're from that country. So it means you have to be able to have some kind of documentation, a passport. Not all of our clients have that. You also have to be able to prove your own identity. And that can be very challenging for people. You also have to be able to prove that you've been in this country and when you arrived, and that can be difficult. For Venezuelans, they have to have arrived before July 31st of this year. So that's just a quick update on what we've seen so far. I'll mention that in the shelters in Westchester County, we have about 216 people that are from Venezuela. So now we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the shelters, and I'll ask Rich Nightingale to please go ahead and talk a little bit about the Yonkers Plaza Esperanza.
Awesome. Thanks, Carola, and good morning, everyone. Glad to be part of this third info session, and I think it's really important that we just keep communicating. You know, when Faith put up the list of organizations a couple slides ago, nice to see that list growing, and I know everyone is, stepping up to meet needs in the community. As Carola said, we run the Plaza Esperanza site in Yonkers, and really, very consistent to what I've said in the past, but more so day by day, we've just really stabilized our operation there. Our goal is to run that program like a traditional social service program that helps people get back on their feet and that helps people get jobs and housing, and all the things that they need. So all of the residents of Esperanza are receiving on-site daily case management from West Ave. When we first took on the operations, it was, all at once. So New York City was still providing contracted security, and over time, as we've hired up, it's now a full West Tab operation. And really our goal is, as I said, always to run like a true social service program. We're not running, respite care or something that we feel is, this like very emergency basis. We're helping these families get situated in the community and do the things that they need to do. Our capacity is around 95 families, and we kind of hover around that. As of yesterday, we had 93 families at Esperanza. Just to give you a sense, that's about 160 adults and about 100 children. All of the children are below 5, which was really like an agreement between New York City and the sites that it was sending families to not have an impact on the school system. So all of the children at Esperanza are below kindergarten age. Some have enrolled in pre-K programs, and Kathy's on the line with us today. There are still a lot of challenges around who can pay for daycare, and is that a New York City thing? Is that a Westchester thing? And so there are a lot of things that we're still working through, but day to day at Esperanza is very stable with a great staff on site. Unfortunately, our director there, Hazel Benavides, that a lot of people knew, she was at West Tab a long time, recently left West Tab to do very similar work in the city. I'm happy to share, we've built a great team there. So our new on-site lead there, Robert Swan, is leading the team. He's actually on the call today. And Faith, if we circulate, an update on our needs, in the future, I'll make sure to include his contact info. But the team is doing a great job there. I'll steal Corolla's thunder for later, but we get a lot of support from a lot of the folks on the call, including legal immigration services through Neighbors Link, weekly ESL through Neighbors Link. And that's really just like critical to our program on site. In the way beginning, our front door was just getting like overly flooded with donations from a very generous community. We appreciate that some of that still goes on, but we're glad to say that, that's kind of pared down. We distributed last time, a list of our true needs, as opposed to just getting everything under the sun, and that's helped a lot. Our needs continue to be kind of the normal basics you'd expect for very young families, formula and diapers and pacifiers and those kind of things. But really the families have what they need. We serve 3 meals a day. And as I said, deliver daily case management. So things are very stable at Esperanza, and we're glad to just continue this work and, keep answering the unknowns as we go of how to get folks the things that they need, and how to most efficiently, help folks with employment, help folks with housing, knowing most of these people are not eligible to work on the books, not eligible for like the traditional housing subsidies that we're used to working with. That doesn't mean they don't get up every day and go to work. They absolutely do. And we're just continuing to try to get better at how to support them and how to support them on their way to, hopefully permanent housing and employment. The last thing I'll say is just so we have about, 90 families at any given time, but there is a little bit of movement. So we'll have a family, that, finds employment in Queens or has some extended family somewhere and maybe moves out. And then we'll have New York City will move in a new family. So, most of our population is pretty stable, but in any given week, we'll have a few move outs and a few move ins, and we'll stay around that operation, that operating number around 90 families. That's probably it for me for now. Happy to answer questions at the end here.
And actually, Rich brings up a great part. We're going to, the same way that we did last time, having questions put in the chat. Jan will be monitoring the chat if you have any questions, and she'll be able to bring them forward as we move on.
Faith, let me share one last thing, just in case this is anyone's first session. We've talked about this more in the past, but Corolla mentions like the diversity of this population. We find that in those 90 families, something like 18 countries are represented, 8 or 9 languages are spoken among our residents. So I do think it's a lot different than some of us expected at the beginning, that it would be 100% Spanish speaking, 100% South American. It is predominantly, as Corolla said, the Venezuelan population is abundant, but we have tenants from Russia and Ukraine and Haiti and West Africa. It really is this broader spectrum, which has been a tremendous learning experience, but also a really exciting opportunity to serve really people from all over the world who are coming to our country and coming to our community. So just wanted to share that as well.
Thank you, Rich. I'm going to jump in, and I have met with .go. For those who are not aware, .go is running the 2 other locations that are housing asylum seekers in White Plains and Ardsley. And .go is a for-profit company. They do have 24-hour case management there, but they are also a for-profit company that is not aware of our local services. So I know that there have been nonprofits that have been stepping it up. And I actually want to give a huge acknowledgement to the mayor of Ardsley, Nancy Kabulian, for the efforts that she has been doing to set up coat drives and meet with each of the families. She's on site almost daily to see what their needs are. I heard that she actually knitted several blankets for the children. So like really hands-on. But again, this when she got elected, I don't think this was really what she really planned on doing. So you know, we as United Way wanted to take on more of a role so we can try to help alleviate everybody else's load and also just try to help coordinate some of the efforts. Having walked through the sites at you know, for .go, it is an interesting situation. The one in White Plains has one grill that the 24 families can share to cook a meat on. Each room has a microwave, and they have a hot dish, but the hot dish has to be used outside through an extension cord outside of the room. Additionally, the grill, originally they had a tent over it. The tent was ruined in one of the storms. So they are still looking for donations of a grill, of a pop-up tent with sides, so that there'd be an enclosure in inclement weather. And their DOCO's solution for the colder months is that there's a kitchen area in the back of the motel, and that they would put the grill in that enclosed area, but it has a wood wall and ceiling. So I don't think the fire marshals are going to really approve that. So they need to look at alternative ideas about what the solution will be in the colder months as we start putting the heat on, right? The other thing that is needed is they are in need of coats and boots, especially for children under age 4. They actually are in need of several newborn items, clothing, car seats, strollers. They're looking to set up a winter playroom because right now the children are just playing on the blacktop of the motel parking lot. And as it gets colder, they have a house next door to the motel that they can use some open space, and they can create a winter playroom. So they're looking for the mechanism to have a TV and to have movies and to have some toys. They are also looking, the main thing for both locations is early intervention evaluations for the children. And so I've reached out to the Westchester Department of Health to see what the best course of action for that is, as well as mental health for both the adults and the children, specifically in Spanish. And in the White Plains location, they're also finding that the residents are not consistently going to the ESL classes offered by El Centro Hispanico, even though it's a very short distance away. So they're trying to see about ESL classes that can be held on site. And then Feeding Westchester is planning on opening up a food pantry at the White Plains location. And they are looking for supplemental canned soups as well as fresh fruits, because it'll be harder for them to cook vegetables in the winter with hot plates. And they're also looking for mommy and me classes, like without specifically for like literacy. So those are the needs for .go that I had gotten from the list. I am going to share my screen to show you the process that that United Way has developed to be able to help with some of the information. And then Jen, if you want to take a look down at what was going on after I do this, we can go through this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the process. The caseworker is the orange box. Those are the people who are working directly at the motels. They can fill out an intake form. The link for the intake form is on the bottom left of the page. We will receive the form, and then there's two things that will happen. One, United Way will be able to create a database by collecting the information. And two, we'll be able to send the information out to the community-based organizations and faith-based organizations who've been signing up through these sessions, who are wanting to be involved with helping with the needs of the asylum seekers. So based on the categories that are notified in the form. In the intake form, it asks what categories of help these people, these families are looking for, so that not everybody has to get reached out for everything. And we do ask, and if you go on the form, like if they are already receiving help for like legal services, what organization they're working with. So we can try to get as much information as possible so that we're not trying to be redundant in our services. And we can keep a track of what's going on, just to make sure that we are able to help as a community as many people as possible. And then once that the CBOs and FBOs are willing to commit, they can respond back on a form that's connected to the email that they receive. And then United Way will connect them to the caseworker. And because we have the initial intake and the database, we'll be able to follow up so that whether there's a problem with the CBO or there's a problem with getting in touch with the caseworker, we'll be able to reconnect and make sure that the clients are actually getting the help that they need. So this is a basic overview of the process that we are looking at, very much a closed loop system. Rich, we do have the ability in the form. I added Yonkers as a location, so you are welcome to, if for any of your needs, participate in this, even though it was originally focused in mind for .go, help is help. So, and we all could use it at times. With that, the other thing that I have is for the next slide. Oh, wrong page. Is again, if you want to be one of the nonprofits or faith-based organizations that have not already signed up to be interested in helping, you can use this QR code to sign up. And we will be sending this out, and I'll send a link out in the follow-up so that if you want to sign up, you are welcome to. At that point, I will stop the share and see if Jan what questions are going on before we move on. Jan, you're on mute.
So there's a number of thank yous in the chat, so that is appreciated. We have a question. Rich, you mentioned a list of true needs. At some point, will you send out a link for purchasing?
Yeah, and I think we'll do that through Faith, through the new United Way coordination. But yes, thank you.
A suggestion to check sharing shelf, and we are aware of those community resources and working with them as well. Is there a list of needs for White Plains to be shared with us after the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Southern Westchester BOCES delivers the ESOL at El Centro Hispano in White Plains. Please contact me directly to discuss adding classes at other locations. Okay.
Jan,
And
yes, does just get me that information, Jan, so we can follow up.
yeah, it's in the chat. But I will get that to you as well. And then who is helping folks who cannot read the form?
So the form is being filled out by the caseworkers. On the site, there are the caseworkers. We also do have it. The form is actually in English and Spanish. What I have not done is actually done an audio version of the form yet, but for accessibility purposes, we can have that available. We're actually working that with a different program that we're working on for accessibility. But for the most part, we were looking at this form being filled out by caseworkers and not the individual clients.
Who can I drop off coats or baby clothes to? Personally, can I send money?
I think we should, while all the nonprofits would love for a donation, and we will all happily be able to designate it, because we may not encourage you to give money directly to the asylum seekers and go more for the services that are being provided. As far as the accepting of goods, as long as they are gently used or new, we can unite. In the link we'll have, in the follow-up, we'll have a link for you to schedule an appointment for drop-off at United Way that can then be distributed to the location that needs those items. Is that it?
That is it.
Okay. With that, we will go on to the next section, which is hearing about the work that's being done in our by our local nonprofits. So first we'll start with Catholic Charities.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us on the call, for being here today. So my name is Lucia Goyne. I'm the director of the day labor programs at Catholic Charities. So I'm just going to focus on that work that we're doing. Obviously, like everyone's organization, there's other work that we do that asylum seekers can access, but obviously I want to focus on the work that we're doing in the shelters and for people in those shelters. So to begin, we have a specific grant with specific requirements that serve most of the population that are in the shelter. Some of them don't fit in that, so we can serve them in other ways. But through that grant, we are able to offer monthly OSHA trainings at our site in Yonkers, on 325 Yonkers Avenue, where we have a worker center. And we also have a team, a case management team of 3 who can assist with connecting to different resources and different needs. With that, we also have some financial assistance possibly to give, or we could help with the purchase of goods. So this is good to hear about what are the needs at the shelters, that maybe we can turn some of that financial assistance to getting some bulk items purchased. But we will have some amount for gift cards, ShopRite cards, and for Metro cards, and now that the buses are charging, so that people can hopefully get around. We've been in constant communication with Robert Swan at West Hab and Hazel before she left, so we're really appreciative for the work and them inviting us almost weekly to do different types of presentations about what we can offer. And so we've been assisting with that, as well as we all are aware, there's so much miscommunication happening across all the different state grants and the cities and all that. And so helping with issues that come up. For instance, we have a health insurance navigator who helps enroll a lot of people who may be eligible. And sometimes there's miscommunication about what documents they need to show. So we're happy to share some of those resources to make sure that the correct information is getting to the population and they are assisted in the best way possible. And then we also have been working with the people on site at DocGo with Carrie Ann to do a few presentations at both the White Plains and Ardsley hotels. We don't go there as often, but we've been in communication with that population as well and seeing what their needs are. So we've been able to assist in various ways, such as helping with change of address, change of venue forms, connecting to legal resources. On our side, on our legal department, we are offering a community legal clinic in Westchester on November 17th. And so many will be referred directly from the shelters, especially mostly Venezuelan who need TPS and who may not be able to get assisted. And we know there's so much need and not enough legal resources to go around with all the organizations. So we're happy to coordinate on that and assist folks who may not be able to get connected elsewhere. But that's mainly what we're doing with that. And the biggest thing that we do at the worker center that many asylum seekers who fall into this specific population have benefited from us is just workers' rights, how to protect themselves, what are the minimum wage requirements, how to protect themselves from wage theft, assisting with wage theft claims, and also connecting to different trainings that hopefully will, continue their path and to be able to get more stable work. We do have a workforce development program, so we try to provide different job opportunities, both for people with work permits and people without work permits, but obviously it's a bit more complicated. And so trying to see what those opportunities are. And so that way we can promote it to people we know we've communicated with, have trained, and know them personally and their abilities. So that's the biggest thing that people have asked us to access as well. And then just being able to kind of navigate the different things that they may or may not be eligible for, the different rumors that have come up from all different areas. And so that's what we've been doing specifically with that population.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. And thank you for all the work you're doing. Kathy Hallis from the Child Care Center of Westchester.
Oh, thank you, Faith. Good morning to everybody. And I'm joined today by Nicole Masucci, a member of my team, who may add to what I'm about to say. So our understanding of who can access what and how with regard to childcare continues to evolve. In most cases, financial assistance is tied to people working, but Head Start programs are available, and we can also refer families, to Head Start where there is no such work requirement. If a family comes to Westchester having already been found eligible for childcare assistance in New York City, then they maintain that relationship with New York City. New York City continues to pay for care. Nicole has developed a relationship with a contact at ACS in the city and is happy to, first of all, would like to know if anybody falls into that situation and can help, I think, intercede in any kind of questions that might come up. Any other family can be screened by us for child care assistance, keeping in mind again that it is tied to work, job search, employment programs. However, there was money put in this year's state budget, $5 million, to open up access to childcare for families whose immigration status otherwise rendered them ineligible. And that money, was contracted with a group called the Workforce Development Institute, and they have just rolled out a program, and we are in constant communication with them. And in that particular instance, there is still a work requirement. However, the immigration status of any family member is irrelevant. We are awaiting an updated application form, which we will get out as soon as we receive it. We're also waiting for forms and information to be available in Spanish, and we will get that out as well. And it's a partial scholarship. It's modeled, frankly, after something that we've been doing here for a while. So there are a couple of possibilities for help with families. We want to be helpful in any way we can. And again, it's, there's a lot of different scenarios. We will write that up and get that out to everybody. And Nicole Masucci would be the primary contact. Nicole, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And maybe you can put your contact information in the chat.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. And if you have any specific questions about any families, you can contact me directly. And if you want us to come out and meet with families possibly, or, we'll work with you to see the best way to service as many families as we can. Okay.
Thank you.
The other non-childcare thing I wanted to mention is that we did previously do deliveries of toys and books and stuffed animals for the young children at the Hope Plaza. And we're, happy to do something like that again, should any of the 3 locations need something like that.
Kathy,
So,
I'll reach out to you. Also, Kathy, what age does Head Start start at? Not everybody knows.
What you don't have to make, you don't
What
have to be
age?
working. Oh, age. I'm sorry. Sorry, I thought you said wage. There are some it's generally age 3 or 2 years and 9 months, but there are some locations that have early Head Start that would also cover babies and toddlers. So again, our referral department is the way to get that information. Phone number is 914-761-3456, extension 140, and I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, we're going to move on to Durandi and the Community Resource Center.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us here. As some of you know, Community Resource Center is located in Mamaroneck, so we really focus on empowering immigrant and low-income families on the southern Westchester region. Currently, our case management team, which is small but very mighty, is serving 120 newly arrived migrant families, 243 people in total. And that includes children from various countries, including some African countries, Central and South America. Interestingly, our largest population, 36%, are from Peru. And then Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela. So I thought that was interesting as well. And 40% of those 120 families are settling in Mamaroneck, and the next city is New Rochelle. So we're really focusing on serving the families that are not connected to shelters. We're trying to be the safety net for families who may not have been bused here, but are finding their way to our county and trying to connect to smaller community-based organizations through word of mouth. And that's really, you know, providing the safety net for the rest of the community organizations that are here, really focusing on those shelters. Of course, the biggest need for us that we've seen is tenants' rights information, housing, eviction prevention, limited immigration, legal services, clothing, food, transportation assistance, as well as school enrollment, workforce development training, ESL classes. And we did just recently do an immigration clinic on Saturday in Westchester. 100 people were served with consultation and applications. So I think the need is pretty consistent throughout. And Community Resource Center, while we've done this for 25 years and this is not new to us, I think this is about managing the crisis, the capacity crisis that our community-based organizations have. So I do encourage us to keep talking about how important our smaller nonprofits are. And yes, if you'd like to donate, please do consider all of the centers in this call. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorandy. Theo, let's hear about Make the Road.
Thanks, Faith, and thanks so much for having us here today. Really honored to be among such powerful advocates working on behalf of immigrant communities. I'm Theo Shiro, co-executive director of Make the Road New York. And really, like, I think our effort has been very much about, I guess, a dual-pronged effort. One, in making sure that we have service staff available for people coming to our center, which is located in White Plains in the county, as well as doing some partnership work with shelters, particularly with Plaza Esperanza, which has been a great partnership. We actually started with doing some cell phone giveaway events. You know, we knew that having a form of communication was crucial for new migrants, particularly for service delivery, right? And making sure that we could stay in touch with them to provide services, you know, whether they were at the shelter or moving away from the shelter, so that we could have that kind of long-term contact so that we could help meet their needs over time. So, you know, that's how we started. We've also then taken a similar approach in trying to be as holistic as possible with providing information, whether it's via our legal services operation, via Know Your Rights sessions, or well, Know Your Rights sessions around asylum in particular and the asylum process, and on topics you know, such as the 1-year filing deadline for asylum applications and other kind of related topics. You know, I think for us, in addition, right, to the legal services, we also, as has been said, want to make sure that we utilize all of our direct services to provide wraparound support. So we also have health enrollment and health access services that we're able to connect people to on-site as well. You know, and so in addition to that, we also provide adult literacy classes. Our operation right now in the county is relatively small. We're seeking to grow that because we know there's a huge need for these kinds of classes. And then, as has been mentioned, as the TPS for Venezuelans is being rolled out, we're also, you know, creating and fundraising for a program to try to sign as many people up, eligible people up for TPS as possible. So that's a service that we are eager to be in partnership on with all of you. And we'll send more information as we're standing up our program. So just wanted to be very brief and, you know, give that update, and also thank everyone for your partnership here. I think collectively we've been doing a really amazing job at supporting this new migrant community. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Thea. And Corolla, let's hear everything that Neighbors Link is doing.
Thanks, Faith. And I want to thank my colleagues for all the work that they're doing, but I also have to thank them for their ability to be concise and stick to our plan of speaking for about 3 minutes. It's extremely impressive, and that everyone has been able to do that. So at Neighbors Link, we are working with 6 shelters, as I mentioned earlier, and we have certainly been offering ESL classes at Blessed Esperanza. We did some family fun days, but the focus of our work has really been immigration legal services. Our legal practice at Neighbors Link 2 months ago was 12 people, 12 attorneys and paralegals, and in the last 2 months, we've hired 10 more people. So our practice has grown to 22 lawyers and paralegals, DOJ accredited reps, with the idea of providing services to new arrivals as they're coming to the area. And we do this by offering legal clinics and doing legal consultations, and then also helping people with their applications. We've held 15 separate events at the 6 shelters to do consultations and legal clinics. We've had 405 clients and 588 legal services cases. And we've done this work through our own legal practice, but also thanks to some significant help from volunteers. And we have a special program with the Human Rights Project at Bard College that includes a large number of volunteers from Bard, from Sarah Lawrence, from Vassar. And then, of course, we've been partnering with Pace Law School as well. And then partnering also with some of our colleagues on this call with their immigration legal practices to hold joint clinics and things like that. We've also been doing some work on housing and do have some funding to provide help and support to people to find housing. That work just started in the last month, and we have helped place people in homes and helped cover their rent through those grant funds that we've received. That's it. Thank you, Faith. Faith, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just realized, sorry. So that is our scheduled agenda, but we can take a few moments and see if there are any other questions that you want to ask in the Q&A section, and Jen will be on it.
There are no new questions at this point.
I find that exciting, but that could just be, just be me.
A number of them were answered, you know, in the chat directly.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank everybody for, you know, joining us today, both the presenters and those who have joined us to be informed. Like I said, we will be sending out follow-up information so that we can actually continue our coordination. And then, you know, in several weeks, we will plan another information session.
There is a question, sorry. Where are rent funds coming from?
Where are the rent funds coming from?
I think that's, to me, there's some funding we have from the state to help people with housing.
Okay.
Great. With that, thank you all for your time, and we'll be sending out the follow-up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Faith.
As always.